committee to talk about lessons learned and lessons in leadership.
Yeah, great. So for those of you who are worried that you're just going to hear a person talk about, I'm not going to drone on, but I'm going to try and form this in a certain way. We spent some time yesterday with the Mentee Mentor group. I had some unique experiences with some really great leaders in my life and some really bad leaders in my life. And I thought, during the shutdown, we're doing community service. Let's just all think about professional development of ourselves. And so I was asked to talk about one of the leaders that I worked for at a very young age, and that is George H.W. Bush. He was, of course, just passed, and I was on his personal staff for many years, the first 5 years of my career. I've been to 48 countries with him. I've been to all 50 states with him. I lived with him twice, both in the White House and in his private office in Houston when we were asked to leave by the American people in 1992. My badge didn't work the next day at the White House, so we moved to Houston, and I helped him set up his life as a private citizen after 54 years of public service. One of those days in public service, he was shot down as a fake 18-year-old in the Navy in 1944 off the coast of an island called Chichijima, which I've also been to with him. I talk about it. It's certainly not a political conversation. It's a conversation about a leader who led a certain way and who, when he left office, had a 28% approval rating from the American people. And when he died, he had a 98% approval rating by the American people. And so why do I talk about him? I talk about him because this is a person who never thought he was done learning, and he never thought he was done teaching. And the day he lost the election in 1992, which I was there with him, it was probably the lowest day of his life, but he ended up creating this whole other life, 25 years as a former president, including 15 of them where one of his best friends is the person that beat him. So I don't just mean this in the way people on TV talk about it, but people can learn a lot from him who currently are running around, but we can all learn a lot from him. So I'm going to ditch the politics, and I'm just going to tell you some funny stories about him. Now, when Deirdre asked me to talk about leadership, I was obviously honored, but I wanted you to also know that if you find the George Bush stuff boring, and you won't hurt my feelings, but if you do, I also, 2 years ago, took time off work and went to the Arctic and learned to dog sled. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because dog sledding is the closest thing I have ever experienced to running a company. This is a company right here. Chaos. Okay? So we can come back to this, but I'll just give you the cliff notes. Running a team of dogs, they're the most beautiful animal. They're the most loyal animal. They are always trying to do the right thing. Always. But sometimes there does need to be a little structure to the sled dog. These dogs are called the lead dogs. I'll tell you about them in a second. They are bullheaded, dumb as anything, and only care about one thing: going, moving. They don't care where they're moving. They don't care how they're moving. They just need to move. Sound like anyone you work with? By the way, they often go to the wrong place. Why? Because they always want to be going. I'm probably closer to that one. The middle dog, brilliant. I bet you all work with some of them. They're called a pull dog. They're usually the oldest. They're really the wisest. They're for sure the smartest. They've been at this a long time, And the key to the middle dog in a dog sled is there's a harness that hooks every dog to a sled. And the middle dog, they pull just hard enough so that there's no tension in the wire, so it looks like they're pulling, but not too hard. Sound like people you might work with occasionally? Okay. So these guys are smart. They've been on the trail oftentimes a decade, and they never let the slack go, but they're doing something. But they're also a calming presence, because behind them is the wheel dog. These are the wheel dogs. They're usually 2 years or under. They are earnest in their effort. They like to go. They're usually the strongest dog. In fact, in this team that I'm running here, that's the strongest dog by far. They don't really know where they're going. And if you pardon just a little cuss word for a second, they're always looking at someone's ass. They don't have a great view of what's going on. So the wheel dog, very strong, very smart in pulling, but the sled only goes when all 6 dogs are going. So if you want, you can come back to this another time. Now I'm going to show you, this is a chaotic situation here. We've come to a lake. You see it. Dogs don't know what to do. They don't care. They're on a smoke break. Whatever, they've seen it all, right? These guys are just like, man, I just love being on this team. I don't even know where I'm going. And you see, this is the dog called Chewbacca. He's the best. If I could hire him at E3 right now, I would. I love this guy. Just wants to go. So, leadership happens all around us every day. I'm a freak about it. I learn from people. I learn from people all around, and I'll never stop learning. Next slide. This is a honed dog sled right there. Moving in perfect unison. That's me. That's 2,000-pound sled right there. The only thing I'll tell you is about all 6 of these dogs, kind of like all of us, the only thing they require is that you engage them and call them by their name. You cannot say, good boy. The middle dog right there is Skillet. You couldn't say good boy, you have to say good boy Skillet. And you have to say it every minute you're on the trail. You have to call all their names over and over and never stop. They just want to know, hey, am I doing a good job? Am I doing what you asked me to do? It's all 6 of them. So it's a pretty funky thing to think about. When you stop, when the sled stops, you have to go up and you have to hold this lead line right here. And you got to say, oh, Chewy, doing great, doing great. I don't mind it when my wife says that to me, or Everett says that to me. So anyway, this is because I'm just throwing out one of my lessons for the road. Let's talk about George Bush. Where are we on the, you don't need to know anything except that I told you, served him personally, then everywhere. This happens to be in the South Pacific in Chichijima where he was shot down. We were reenacting, or we were part of a National Geographic of where he was shot down. This is me doing all that I ever did, all I ever did was carry a glass of water for him. Okay, maybe I did some other things. But this is a perfect view into my life for many years. I had a great view of life. The only thing I want to say about the upper right, very famous picture for me, probably my most favorite George Bush picture, because on January 20th, 1993, Inauguration Day, I was the only person in the room when the Bushes and the Clintons had tea in the White House. And I accompanied the president up to the Capitol, 1 million people. You learn about your democracy really quick. You are up there. You have been voted out, but you are standing there in support of the nation. And it's the right thing to do, and you feel it. You feel it through your bones, and you're not mad. You're in awe of your country at that moment. We then take Marine One to Andrews. We fly to Houston. And this is leadership lesson number 1 for me. President Bush told us the day we lost the election, he pulled us all, the personal staff, in and said, you support them, you work for the nation, you don't work for me as a person, you work for the nation, you make sure they have everything you need. I don't want any negativity, I don't want anything. And he's like, we work for the nation, like leadership lesson. Wow. I was 20, And I was like, no, I want to fight someone. I want to do something. This is Inauguration Day. Gets to, he and I, as president, we had gone down and seen the office once. He now sits down at his desk for the first time, and he says, right, it's a moment in the history of the nation. We have just arrived in Houston. His new life is starting. He as a leader, any of us as a leader, we're all leaders at every given day, in our family, in our church, in our work. He sets the tone, meaning a lot of us, we always kind of go, oh, I'd be better if that guy wasn't that way, or I'd be a better person if my mom had only raised me a little bit better, or I'd be better. We tend to kind of lean on other people. Well, as a leader, he knew that he was going to set the tone, not just for that day. He knew he was going to set the tone for the next 25 years, and whatever he did when he got to that office. We were there, and we were like, okay, we have no experience. What do we? And he goes, he grabs the yellow pages. Some of you don't know what those are. And says, Andy, let's order Chinese. That's him ordering Chinese. And of course, I didn't have cell phones back then, so I had to go. So I took that picture because I always wanted to remember, man, talk about a tone setter, right? In every room we all walk into, we're setting a tone. Every time. Look on our face, body language, engagement. Okay. We're moving on. I'm going to try, we don't need that. We don't know who. Great. Thank you. That is actually the first day of my aide when I became an aide to him, and he asked the White House photographer, Susan Powers, to take a picture of my first event carrying the bag. And for those of you that have been around the president, there's two bags, one that doesn't matter too much, and one that really matters. I carry the one that doesn't. Okay, moving on. So I'm going to just play a clip because I have to take you back to 1992 in order to do some of these things. So we're going to try this. Like for those that didn't maybe know him as well, I got to take you into 92 because you got to kind of get your head around it. We're gonna try this.
Feel like I'm the Dave Clark 5 here. Still a little Tai Chi. Dana's backstage, not quite ready, a little nervous. Sent me out here to stall for time, and, well, since we got a minute, I want to tell you I've been feeling good about the Republican Party. Been consulting with some, thank you. I'm in enemy territory here. Been consulting with some Republican pollsters. Looks good. It looks good. Sat down with Newt Gingrich and Phil Gramm, and we worked up a little ditty. G, want to lay down that funky thing you do back there? Republicans are teachers, Democrats are students. Don't vote for donkey, wouldn't be prudent. Gingrich and Dole, dig and Bill a hole. You heard me and I meant it. We're taking the House and Senate. We're not gonna lose, not gonna do it. Not guy, not guy, not guy, not guy, not gonna do it, and a not guy. I say not guy. What? I was doing my not guy.
Bush is still on the hookup, and he wants to say something.
He's here now?
Yeah, should I put him through?
All right, put him in.
Dana, George Bush here. I'm watching you do your impression of me, and I gotta say, it's nothing like me. There's no resemblance. It's bad. It's bad.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. President. I think it's a fair impression.
Don't see it.
You know?
It's totally exaggerated. It's not me, those crazy hand gestures, the pointing thing. I don't do them. And also, nah, da, da, never said it. In all my years of government service, I never once said na-da-da.
Anything else?
Yes, that church lady thing. What was that all about? Never got the point.
What is that special?
Gotta go.
Okay, so I'm just doing this to take us back. There's one more I want to show you. December 24th, 1992, we've lost the election. People are down. There's a special phone in the Oval Office. It's old technology that if he picks it up, it rings all over the White House. It's called PL POTUS. Usually people want me to answer because it's not usually ever good. So he called me on PL POTUS and said, Andy, get everybody into the East Room right now. Get the agents, the military guys, get the Marines, the HMX guys, get the Air Force guys, get the WACA guys, get them in the thing. And it sounded a little crazy to me. Like, we don't do stuff like that with the president. We just bring people in the room. So anyway, I don't know what's happening here. I'm the aide here. You will only see the back of my very hairy head. But I'll just show you 3 minutes of this. But this is just who this man is. This is how he says goodbye to the White House staff. And it's amazing. He doesn't come. He sends data cards. And I'm just going to show you 1 minute of it.
Thank you. Good night. Well, first thing I noticed is podium for the other guy over there. Feel like Billy Barty up here. Kind of short down in this area down here. Would love to be up here, but I'm down here. This is very, very strange. I was staying in the Lincoln bedroom last night, and I couldn't resist getting on the phone, and I called from Secret Service as the president. Feel like going jogging tonight. In the nude. My wife and I were looking out at the lawn around midnight. These guys fully unclothed. Well, it's good to have. I've been studying him since yesterday, and I think I've actually. The way to do the president is to start out with Mr. Rogers. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Then you add a little John Wayne. Here we go. Let's go over the ridge. You put them together. You got George Herbert Walker Bush. That's the thing there. Now.
Okay, so I'll pause there. Okay, you got it. So why do we focus on that? I'm not like trying to clown around here, but that is a lesson to me of how do you work through something that may not be your favorite thing in the world. Losing on a public stage. Add that bit of humility, add that humbleness, and realize that all of us work in an atmosphere with coworkers and people who care about us, and plenty of people who don't care about us. But that is his way of saying, kind of setting the tone that says we're going to be okay. And I've learned, and sometimes I lead the league in pouting, or maybe lead the league in whining. And I sort of remember these moments, these hard moments for him, where you kind of got to throw yourself up, and whether you use your own stamina, you use your faith, you use your family, we all really need to do a little bit more of that because we live in a society and work in places with lots of people. So these are some of the things that I learned from him, and just to make this a touch interactive, I have put 9 leadership lessons on the board here. And in a Jeopardy way, I'd love to go over a couple with you, but I'd ask that someone pick one for me, and we'll see what we can do. So any volunteers?
POTUS always wins.
Yeah, harder. This one's a little harder because it will make him seem not totally honest. But as I've learned, and certainly as being a father, that sometimes sometimes you have to take an appreciation for his day, what his day's like. You know, a lot of times you all go into rooms and we're bringing a baggage from our interaction in the morning with a colleague, a spouse, a coworker, and when we arrive in that room, everyone is now going to wear whatever happened to us that day. And sometimes we felt, especially Persian Gulf War afterwards, we felt like sometimes, you know, POTUS needs to win too. So I did play, especially as former president, I did play a lot of golf with him. And he had two types of golf. He had golf, and then he had running golf. Running golf is driver, 7-iron, putter. Every time we hit a shot, we sprint to the ball. If you could design the most annoying thing in the world, you'd rather be waterboarded than do that. Sorry, too soon. So he would run, and like he would hit, and by the way, everyone would show up. He would invite people from the town in Kennebunkport. He would fill it out with filler, seat filler right here. Not a friend, not gonna do it. And no one wanted to be in his foursome because they didn't want to do that. So I always got stuck with running golf, and he would hit the driver, and then he would sort of loosely wait for me to hit. And if Gorbachev was there, that would be better because he'd wait for him. And he would hit the ball, and he'd run to it, and then he'd get to the green, and he'd say, "Andy, I got a 5. What'd you get?" Only one answer. Only one answer. So, not really a leadership lesson, but sometimes we might have a colleague or a coworker that needs a little boost. And Rick taught me one. Where's Rick? He taught me one yesterday.
What did I do?
Well, Deirdre had something amazing to report, and I don't remember how it went, but I said, how did that go? I don't know. I said something to Deirdre like, "Oh yeah, I heard that," and then Rick goes, "Deirdre, you did an amazing job." Well, that's the equivalent of a 5 or a 6, right? Crushed it, right? So anyway, we all have coworkers. Sometime maybe give them a little boost. Tell them you got it. Okay, next, who's on the board? Who's on the board? We got it. Yes, ma'am.
Be honest, answer the question.
Yeah, harder to say, but really, really important for our client work and our work at corporate. Really, really important. A lot of times, if we ask a question, the question is probably pretty meaningful. The older we get, we think we know everything, but when all of a sudden we actually ask a question, sometimes when we're younger especially, we have a tendency to get a little over-earnest and maybe answer the question, maybe bending some things, or maybe presuming to know the answer but not really knowing the answer. And President Bush was very firm on, if a question is asked, that you actually know the answer, and if you do not, "I don't know, sir, I'll get back to you," was a perfectly fine answer. Even in the heat of some very quick decisions, both from a national security perspective and others, his demand of you was to say, "I don't know." Well, he's a big practical joker, and he used to try and trick me. He, like in the billboard is an example that he, I don't know if you've been, we happen to be in Chicago. I was in the car with him, and he said, "Andy, I see," he goes, "I know Smith is running for sewer commissioner in Cook County." He says, "What's Smith like?" Okay, no offense to Smith, but I don't know who Smith is. I don't even know what a sewer commissioner does. I mean, I'm embarrassed by that. I'm supposed to be staffing this. And my answer was, "Sir, I don't know Smith, but I will most definitely get back to you. Let me make a call. We'll find out who this Smith is. I can do it in a pretty low-key way, find out who this Smith is." he didn't care about Smith. He just was riding in the car. He's a little bored. He saw a billboard for Smith for sewer commissioner, and so he thought he'd send me on a little goose chase. But that's not the point, that he likes the practical joints. The point is, I've always been taught that I don't know is a good answer, and I'll find it. Leadership lesson. You all are counted on for your eminence every single day. We have all built up a lot of experience. Sometimes we build up so much experience that we forget to refresh that knowledge. I was talking with some of our CVP colleagues in the back and talked to Tony yesterday, and I had a chance to have a real great dinner on Monday with the CVP client, the commissioner, and all I talked to him about was the data about the border right now. Because I feel like you guys are in it every day, and things are getting thrown at the border, and then you go, whoa, I'd like to learn about that. So what do we all do? I'm going to Google. Okay, nothing you read on Google is true anymore. That's not the source for me. I wanted to know how many people are apprehended at the border, how many are family members. I talked to the Commissioner of Customs for 30 minutes about this because I think it matters to our work that the whole thing that's happening at the border is totally different than it was 1 year ago. Meaning, 440,000 people apprehended in 2017, about the same number in 18. Difference, 60% of them were kids and families. Okay, the infrastructure that we support is not set for that. The interactions with ICE and ERO are not set for that. Well, that's my job. That's our job to know that, so that when we're interacting with a client, we're saying, hey, I'm not passing judgment on data. I just want the data. And so I learned that a lot from him. And trust me, this is not a commercial for me. I've learned a lot of things. I practiced probably 15. I'm not good. I want to do more. That's why I do this. Who's next on the board? Let's play the feud. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, this is the biggest one, the easiest to talk about. Every single person is treated the same by him. No one interacts. He doesn't interact one way different if he's talking to Gorbachev or he's talking to the social secretary or the butler or the HMX pilot. Everyone's treated the same. He wants to know about people's families first and foremost, what drives them. He could be the busiest day of his life. It could be the easiest day of his life. He will never start a meeting. He will never, sees me 20 hours a day. He will never start something without saying, Andy, how you doing? These guys know, it's a bit of a joke for him. He likes to put things on a number. He wants you to assign a number to how you're doing. So, I would say, sir, how are you today? And he'd go, about a 6 out of 10. He goes, but I'm trending up. So for me, that's the core lessons. I told the mentees yesterday, this is the most core lesson I ever learned, is that nobody's different, no one's better, no one's worse. We're all just the same, and we're on this journey. We're trying to make a living. We're trying to support our families. We're trying to do whatever we're doing. MJ and MJ are probably my two famous, I met a lot of famous people in my life, but can anyone guess who?
Michael
Jordan.
Jordan is one, and right. So Michael Jordan, met him multiple times because they were winning championships, and he was a winner. Michael Jordan, the epitome of a champion. I won't dime out the other team, but we went to an NBA game as a former president because we were invited by the away team, which were the Bulls, to come watch the game. So we had dinner with Jordan. He had dinner with Jordan. I hung out with Pippen. I'm always looking for who's Pippen. And we walk in the locker room. Every Chicago Bull trainer, player stands up. Mr. President, we're honored you're here. We walk in the other locker rooms. No one gets up. The president's like, we go. Second MJ, Michael Jackson. This is in the White House. I'd staff that meeting. Once in a while, President Bush would say, Andy, I would like you to stay in this meeting. that was one he asked me to stay into. And that MJ was just a little bit eccentric at that time. And that was a kind of a clunky meeting, a little bit. So I sort of jumped in the middle of it with Barbara Bush to try and sort of get some things going. And, you know, I threw out the Thriller video. I mean, I was trying to bond, right? And he laughed, and I said, sir, he's sold more albums than anyone in history. He goes, strange bird. Anyway, everyone gets treated the same. Certainly at E3 Sentinel, we all get treated the same. Celebrities like people, and people like celebrities. Who's next? Who's on the board here?
I love the Newsweek one. Come on, the best one.
Okay. So, do your job is probably really important to all of us, because I think there are days that we as human beings, we sort of wander from what are we doing. Either the client is not providing guidance and we're sort of straying, or maybe E3 Sentinel, maybe our leadership is not clear. And there's not a single person that doesn't stray. And once in a while I try and start the morning, maybe I'll meditate for a few minutes and I'll go, what is my core? What am I going to do that only I can do today? Because I've got to do that. I've got to help my colleagues, whatever it is, I try and be grounded on that. Well, one of the reasons I'm pretty grounded on it is because my first event that I staffed was a Newsweek photo op for the convention issue for the 1992 convention. It's in August. It's magazines aren't as big as they were then, but those cover a Time, Newsweek, and U.S. News that mattered. And so they said, hey, Andy, you'll do this photo op. This guy's a little bit of a weird photographer. He's European and he's trying to do some funky things. He's going to try and get the president to do some weird things, but not on my watch. No one's trying any crazy stuff with my president on my watch. So they go, give him 150 clicks and get out of there. You got 20 minutes. Go meet the photographer. Tell him this is how we're going to go. We're going to walk out. You're going to set up on the south lawn, and I mean way down on the south lawn, near where the gate is, where you can go to the ellipse and look at the White House, past the fountain. So I'm here to the wall, to the fence, because they want the fountain in the background. And it's a beautiful August day, and I'm single, reporting. And there's like all these girls out there, and I'm just like, this is unbelievable, because here I am with just a photographer, the president, 6 agents. I'm like, I kind of go, you know. I'm like, this is a ton of fun. My dad just chilling, south lawn, POTUS. Right? So, I mean, I lived 12 months earlier. I'm like struggling through a COM 114 exam at Purdue. It's like, this is awesome. So, I accompany the president out. The clicks start. President's in the chair. Everything's going normal. I just don't love the tie combo he went with. It's got kind of an awkward little tie bar thing going. I kind of want to pull that up, and I want to pull that off. And it was sort of at that time that Barbara Bush came out of the East Wing. That's unannounced. I know this because I see the dogs, and I see her agents. Oh, wow, there's Barbara Bush coming, too. Looking at my briefing paper, I don't think she's supposed to be here. She's a ways away. What could possibly go wrong? So she comes over. President jumps up. Hey, Bar, how are you? Loves his wife, right? Married 70 years when he passed last month. Now they're hugging. We got a dog involved. We got Ranger there, and he's kind of doing this spin, catch the tail thing. And then we got Millie there. And now the president, he's just full on. He's not at a photo op. He is now just playing with his family. So he's got this, and he's got the vein in his head. He's got the tie now kind of crumpled over. He's got the dog, and he's picking Millie up, and he goes, oh, you know. And I was like, well, he's the president, right? He needs to kind of do what he wants to do. Who am I to get in the middle of that? So, yeah, sure enough, it's starting to dawn on me that this is not great. And you're wondering about the theme, which is do your job. So we get on the plane, on Monday to fly down to Houston for the week for the convention, and Marlon Fitzwater, who was the press secretary and also the person that first hired me in the White House, throws a magazine at me, and he said, "This is what I meant." And I pick up the magazine, President on the cover, bent over, look it up, August 92, and it says, "Dog Days at the White House." Not totally what we were looking for. So I always use it as a way to say, I wasn't put on that photo shoot to flirt. I was certainly not put on that photo shoot to sit back and not enforce what the rules of the photo op were. I was there for a job. I could have been 9 years old, 11 years old. It didn't matter. I was there to do a job. So when I think about our clients are going to spin us in many directions, but at the end of the day, I think we always have to take that centering moment to say, what am I supposed to be doing right now? And let me use the shutdown for a little bit of an example. You know, everyone at corporate is rallied around, because this is the culture that Everett set for this company a long time ago, that one person is every person here. I believe in it. Chris and I ran our businesses together that way, so it wasn't hard for me to figure out. But Everett and I, you know, we're figuring out a good mix here, that we have a job to do right now, and that job just got just a slightly more complex. We have clients that are working. We have people that need to be hired. We have a lot of things going on, and the shutdown to us is that we have a constituent of people that moves every day. Some days it's 40, some days it's 50. That's our job too. And so, but you can't all of a sudden run to the right side of the boat and go, you know what? All we're going to talk about is the shutdown. In fact, yesterday we capped it and said, we know what we have to do. Let's be done, because we have a business to run. We have a business that when this shutdown is over, it has to be a great company before, during, and after that shutdown. So the decisions and the work we do, we have to do our job. We all have to do the job we can only do. And you being here today is raising your hand and saying, hey, I'm not working right now, but I'm happy to come learn, do some service, learn about some new solutions. And I just think we always have to sort of center ourselves on what's my job. I'm on a team with 11 E3ers, 4 subs, and 2 people I don't know what they do. What do I do, though? What am I supposed to be doing this week? And I think I learned that from him. Well, sorry, I learned it from getting a magazine thrown. Okay, should we do one more? All right, maybe I'll do this. I don't at all know my acronyms right there. That's hilarious. Like, not one bit. So let's go down here.
Oh, yeah. Do be it.
So I think, President Bush really believed, and he was a human touch, and I know he wasn't the only president. I do a lot of studying about former presidents and presidents. I'm very interested in it. I've met the last 6 presidents, so I just am into it. I'm into their human connections with people. I'm into how people interact. When President Bush was very, very good at rewarding performance and rewarding people that cared for him in any way. The famous stories of what he did for his Secret Service agent, staying at Camp David for Christmas so that his detail could be at home. His security detail could be at home. Not good for the Marines at Camp David, but good for the Secret Service. Given the WACA guys today, he just was so always thinking about others, no matter what his day came to, what came in his day. And it's pretty amazing to always be thinking that. And I want to focus on the word reward, because I don't want anyone to think every single person in this room right now, gives rewards every single day. Now, how many we give, that's up to us. Okay? There's not reward doesn't mean, I give a Starbucks gift card. Reward is, hey, that was a hard project today. You did an awesome job. Reward. You just changed the trajectory of someone's day. Now, I didn't know that then. I thought these things were all a little bit things that adults did. I wasn't an adult. I got it. Wait, is that it? Oh. So he called me one day. I was in the Oval Office, and he said, Andy, who who are you taking to the White House Christmas party? And he doesn't mean there's a White House Christmas party every night, but there's a big one for West Wing staff. He sort of cockily, very arrogantly said, "Sir, I'll be fine. I'll find a date. I mean, come on. Like, I can't go out in Georgetown and go, hey, anyone up for White House Christmas party? Like, who's in? Or, like, I can't go back to the South Lawn and, who can? He says, well, if you'd like, I'll call anyone in the world for you. I mean, what is that, right? That is, he is now going to call. This is like the movies, right? That movie Dave, or like, it's like he is going to call someone. So that is a crazy offer. And I know that when you're working with a president, he could say something and 5 seconds later go, oh, squirrel in a tree, and we could be working on something else. So I knew that this was probably a flighty thing, but if I could produce a name right there, he was going to call whoever it was. So I thought about, that girl, junior year at Purdue, that said no to the kite and key dance. She said no to me. Like, that was my first idea. Like, let's call her up, see what she's up to 2 years later. And maybe I won't take her, but maybe it'll be good for her to call. Right? That's right. People like celebrities, I get it. Okay. So, we didn't call her, and I froze. And I had no ideas in my mind. Because I was like, okay, do I want to go? It's like when people say, if you could have dinner with one person, like in life, you kind of go, well, God, Abe Lincoln or something, like, should I really go for like this Bill Gates? Should I go for maybe a supermodel? Like, what's the play here, right? So I great risk, I said, you know what, can I have a night to think about it? At which time he was like, yeah, sure, I'll want to do this tomorrow. So we go home, I call I phone a friend, maybe call a mom, something, and everyone's giving me bad advice. They're like, oh, the girl from the Def Leppard video. This has to be real. Like, people are just throwing out, and I'm like, no one's helping me, and I'm trying to get, like, centered on this. Well, anyway, I had just seen the movie Singles, Bridget Fonda. Anyone? Okay, just making sure. So I go in there and I say to the president, can you call Bridget Fonda? And as the words are coming out of my mouth, I realize I have just said the most democratic family maybe in the history of the United States. As the words are coming out, I'm trying to catch them. Not that he would care, but it's a little bit funny, where we are in life's journey. And he goes, oh, Pete's daughter? I'm going, Peter Fonda? We call him Pete now? If he's an Easy Rider, I'm like, well, that's a good movie. And I'm like, yes, Pete's daughter, sure. I think that's Jane's niece. I think it's Henry's grandniece. I think is the... So he's like, I'm in. Phone. Yes, sir? Give me Bridget Fonda on the phone. 30 seconds later, Bridget Fonda's on the phone. We're on speaker. Bridget, I got this guy here, and what he said in the next 3 sentences is still a blur, but I know it rhymed with, this guy is basically running the country. And he wants to take you to this. Will you go to this party? Anyway, he made me out to be, he's giving me a reward. He's complimenting me in front of this person, who cares? But what a nice reward. I'm sure you want to know the end of the story. She said no. She was filming a movie, which now when I see it on HBO, I giggle with my kids all the time. The movie was Point of No Return. She plays an assassin, and it's a horrible movie. Anyway, so I took Everett. I took my mom. No, because there wasn't a number 2 called. Just so you know. We were done. So that is, I've exceeded my time just slightly bit. I think the stuff that was said at his funeral, which we helped run, and the first time we planned his funeral was in 1993. It's the first time I met with him about his funeral. And he said, I want to be buried in the type of box that a private gets buried in. That was important to him because his crewmates on his plane were killed when he was shot down. 2 crewmates, both killed, and he wanted to go like they went. And, there's a lot of humor in planning a funeral with a president who's still very much alive, because you're kind of dancing around some things, and you're kind of like, well, sir, the nation, you're really the nation's president, so there's certain things, like you can't carry a pine box, you're going to have to do it this way, because we're going to be at the cathedral. Oh, I don't want to do the cathedral, just put me in College Station, I don't want to do any of that. Well, sir, the nation really needs that. We mourn our presidents. Our country doesn't have a standard for how it mourns its president. So December was very interesting to go through that. Barbara Bush had passed 6 months earlier. We were very active in that. But I hope you saw it. I hope it came across. The people that, because I think it's a moment for our country. It's not a Republican-Democrat thing. It's just it's a human thing. We've only had 45 presidents in our nation's history. For him, friends and family are bedrock. 44. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right. That's 44. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I was thinking about that 5 minutes I was president in Japan when the president threw out. We won't count that. Okay, I was really into it for those 5 minutes. Quail was nowhere to be found. Friends and family are bedrock to him, made him better at his job, made him better at what he did. So, leaders make tough decisions, friends and family, and we smother each other. I want to end here. We smother each other in whatever it is in our hard times. And you are in client projects, people at corporate. I think E3 is great at that. Sentinel was too. Ranger happens to be the dog that I was at Texas A&M with the dog. The dog wasn't working, and then doctor said, you got to put this dog to sleep. And I was like, oh, you better call the president, because I am not doing that. And no, I did it, because the doctor was like, that's your job. And here we are. We got a little blip in the road. Blip's called a shutdown. We don't know, the key about it is we don't know the scope of it. We don't know when it's going to end, but we're all built for this. And I know it's not fun, and we're going to talk about some things a little bit later about next week and sort of weeks beyond that. But, you sort of make we're not made as people for those awesome days where our client loves us and we're protecting the border, or we're doing DNDO, or we're at census. We're not made for those days. When we become a company and when we become colleagues is what we do on the hard days, not the great days. And so we're in a hard day. And, the way that Everett runs the business, the way that I'm in, we're sharing the pain. The ELT all raise their hands. We should do something. Half of the ELT at any given time is working while on leave or not taking a salary. We're cutting things that we don't need to be doing because we want to try, and we don't have an idea of how long this is going to go. But we'll get our lunch. We'll talk a little bit more about this. But we have some ideas. But again, we're smothering people during their hard times, and they might not want to be smothered. You might not want to be smothered and go, I'm fine. I want to go catch up on Netflix. Fine. But we want to provide options. If you want to come into rooms and learn about technology, you want to come and learn. Today is kind of forced family fun. It's like let's do one thing today. Let's do some service. Let's do that. Let's learn about a solution that we're rallying around in the company, so that you can all know that. And next week we'll offer some other things. But we're going to double down right now. We're going to go. We could go under our covers. We could pretend it's not happening. We could whine about it, or we could go, no, we're actually going to lean into it. Rick's team announced a huge contract expansion yesterday, and that's happening in a couple of places. Finished a huge bid yesterday with some great teammates. So all of this is to me, every time I read that now, I go, they're picking all of us up right now. They know it. We have 50, 60 people, might grow the next 2 weeks. We're just going to pick each other up as a firm. And we're going to do our best doing it. And we're going to face each week as a new week. And maybe we'll employ one of these along the way. Running golf. Maybe I'll just start running around, seeing if people can catch up. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for doing this. It was awesome. Fun.